Uh-huh. It's counting it's counting the minutes.
All right. I need to end that one.
Yay, we are on.
We're on?
Yep.
Okay. Look here. We live on Facebook, and as you know, y'all just ignore my background because I was playing a little early today. I forgot to turn it off. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion this evening about the SBA, the loan package, the bailout. Well, we can't call it a bailout, but it's a bailout. And a lot of different questions and confusion about what's going on with packaging and how to get some. If you're a small business entity, what we brought somebody on today who is an expert on the topic. Nikia Sweeny is on the SBA, and Nikia is a longtime friend of mine. I don't do interviews. I do interviews, but I don't do bios and intros. So I'm gonna turn off because this is annoying me. But this information's got to be good because we're going through too much. So go ahead and do what you got to do.
Perfect. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Nick Sweeny. Thankful for this evening and this opportunity. This is a hot topic, to say the least. And just to give you a little background, I'm in the same boat as many small businesses who are in a period of the unexpected. I'll say that I've been a serial entrepreneur for a number of years. And this time last year, I thought that my biggest battle in trying to find a focus was my colon cancer diagnosis. But little did I know that a year from now, we'd have COVID-19, right? So both of those situations required faith, resiliency, a mindset shift, and the ability to focus. So thanks to Mark for reaching out, because right now is a period where we want to be able to recognize this without the anxiety that so often many small business owners I've been talking to now for the past week regarding the stimulus, that many of them are feeling. And the reality of why so many are in a stress situation when it comes to the stimulus packaging really is because of the information that's out there. And the interesting reality of the information is that it's not because misinformation is coming from third parties or secular sources. It's just that the reality is this is an evolving process with a lot of moving parts. And so my goal for this evening is to address the top 5 concerns that I've been hearing now for the past week, so that you and I can be in a position where we understand enough about the stimulus package, which has 3 components. We're going to talk about that. As a matter of fact, these 5 top facts should either do one or 2 things by the time we wrap up this call. Either you're going to be ready to go to SBA.gov and start the process of applying, or you're going to go to SBA.gov and you're going to build up all the information you need so that you can make an even more educated decision about the additional funds or support that your business needs. So let me give you a deep dive real quick into the top 5 tips. So one, who qualifies? We'll talk about the truth about the application process. We're going to get the dish on this $10,000 advance from the CARES Act. We're also going to take some time to talk about the new program, the Paycheck Protection Program. What is it? Who qualifies? And how do you go about applying? Top 5. So Mark has agreed to chime in with additional questions if any comes up. So who qualifies right now? Hopefully you as a small business owner with less than 500 employees. So why do I say a small business owner with less than 500 employees? And I emphasize that because it helps us to see the magnitude or the scope of what's happening with this influx of applications, that there are a lot of us looking for relief, right? So we're going to tie that into the truth about this application process and where we are in terms of looking at the applications. So small businesses, less than 500 or less employees, nonprofits qualify as well, and there's even a category for 1099s. sole proprietors. The application process, I'm going to focus first on the economic injury disaster loan, the EIDL. You'll hear me refer to EIDL. Not sure if this is going to come out pretty good. We're going to talk about the EIDL, and then we'll talk about paycheck protection. So the economic injury program, that disaster loan can take 3 to 4 weeks to process. So let's keep that in mind. We're talking almost a month for the approval process, the application process. That's much longer than many of us had anticipated, right? But here's the reality for us in business, because we are planners. If we know the application process is going to take 3 to 4 weeks, then now we're in the process of planning instead of panic, right? My stimulus package right now is Mr. Sweeny. And you know what I mean, right? So now is the time for us to link arms and really dig into the support that we have while we're waiting on the economic injury disaster loan to process. So let me dig a little deeper in that. When you apply online at SBA.gov, now we have the streamlined application. So the streamlined application, unlike the first application that could take hours and a lot of document uploading, right? Now the streamlined application literally can take someone less than 30 minutes to complete. It is submitted, and at the end, the only confirmation you're going to receive is an application confirmation number. I'll say it again. The only confirmation you're going to receive right away is your confirmation application number. So screenshot it, write it down, take a picture. That is your proof that the SBA has received it. So once that application is in, we're in a window right now where, as much as they are trying to push forward to get these application processed, we're realistically looking at 3 to 4 weeks. If you were amongst the first batch that submitted the extended application that required a lot of uploading, you may have received an email that suggested you go back online to SBA.gov and fill out the streamlined application. And here's why. The streamlined application has the option for you to opt in to the advanced emergency funds. That's the CARES Act, releasing up to $10,000. But that is attached to the economic injury disaster loan. So in order to get to that up to $10,000 advance, you must first have applied for the economic injury disaster loan. So let's explain, let's go into our third fact. What is this up to $10,000 advance? Does it have to be repaid? Well, there are two things that stand out here. One, it is an advance on the funds that you are approved for in your economic injury disaster loan. So that means that the application has to be processed and approved before an advance of emergency funds can be received. And notice it is up to. The SBA is going to determine how much funds your business needs. And then they'll also determine, well, how much of that up to $10,000 can we advance you after the application is processed, approved, and accepted by you. Then, thanks to the advance, you'll receive those advance funds in about a 2 to 3 day turnaround, directly deposited into the account information that you listed on the streamlined application. So let's go back to the streamlined application again. And this that is really important. Yes, it is asking for your bank information up front. It's not a scam, it's a secure site. Everything will be okay. And you will not be able to move forward if you select the advanced funds option and leave the routing number, bank account information blank. So please be reminded that on the website, it talks about the advance being available in 2 to 3 days. Well, if you read the fine print, it clearly states that the advance funds can be made available in 2 to 3 days after a successful application submission. So it's not misleading, it's telling the truth. The application must be submitted successfully and it must be processed and completely approved. And then at that point, 3 to 4 weeks, an advance on those funds will be available to you. So we did pretty good on that. And those advance funds do not have to be repaid. So that's the economic injury disaster loan. What I want to do is wrap up and run into our paycheck protection program and just give you the dish on that so that we can open it up if those have questions about what we've talked about thus far. So remember I said there are 3 components to the stimulus. There's the economic injury disaster loan we just talked about, and the emergency advance of funds is tied to this loan because it is an advance on what you're approved for through this program. So they are 2 in 1, right? With the advance not having to be repaid. The Paycheck Protection Program, whole nother program, right? As many of you are already familiar with it. Unlike the EIDL, this Paycheck Protection Program, the application is available online. However, it is processed by individual lenders. So what is this Paycheck Protection Program? Well, we've said it, and it's the title of it. It is to support a businesses or a sole proprietor or a 1099, their payroll expenses at least for an 8-week period, right? For a good 8 weeks. So the Paycheck Protection Program is a low interest loan. It is a loan. It carries a 1% interest rate, and it has the ability to be forgiven if the expenses are used to cover payroll. So let's dig into this a little bit. So the Paycheck Protection Program, okay, you're accepted, Mark. They say this is great, you're qualified, you're approved, and this is what we're going to give you so that you can support payroll at least for the next 8 weeks, right? And you accept it, you take it, and you document that those monies are used specifically for payroll. You haven't laid any employees off. No employees are collecting unemployment. The same number of employees you started with at the start of the application are the same number of employees that you have 8 weeks later. So what's your next step? Well, in order to receive forgiveness in a Paycheck Protection Program, you have to show proof that you used it for that purpose, and you have to request forgiveness. Forgiveness is not automatically given just because you qualify and you accept the loan. So you have to go back and support with supporting documents and actually request the forgiveness. If it is forgiven, even if it's a portion of the loan, well, then there you have it. It's forgiven, and that does not have to be repaid. However, if there's a balance, then you have to pay it back. It's still on that 1% interest rate, and you have 2 years to pay off the balance. So how do you apply? Last one, point 5, download the Paycheck Protection application. It's in PDF form on SBA.gov. Fill it out, and then now it's time to select your lender. So let's be honest. Some of us already have established business banking relationships with some of what they are referred to as the 7A lenders. To find out who these lenders are, of course, the list is available, SBA.gov. The easiest way to get to it is to search for the 7A lenders. Again, that's 7A as in Apple lenders, and there are over 100 active lenders in the SBA pool. However, let's be realistic, what's happening in the process of this evolving program, not every bank is equipped and ready to handle the applications or even provide funds. So with that being said, again, no need for us to become discouraged. There are over 100 banks that are qualified lenders with the SBA. So the goal is to pick at least your top 5 and keep moving on. Some lenders have even expressed that if you don't have a current relationship, that they may not do business with you. Well, we move down the list and we find another one. So the Paycheck Protection Program, because we're going through the lenders individually, the best way to connect with the lenders, of course, is not to visit a branch in light of the pandemic, but many of the lenders already have information available online on the individual bank's websites. And of course, they're all just a phone call away. So with the Paycheck Protection Program, because it is dealing with individual lenders, it has a much faster processing time. It's bank specific because the banks can determine their own processes, their own requirements. What does not change is that the Paycheck Protection Loan has a 1% interest rate with 6 months deferred. Your EDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, comes with a 3.75% interest rate. For nonprofits, it's just 2.75. It's deferred for 6 months, but it does accrue interest even during the deferment period. So as I wrap up before we open it up, and I know Mark probably has a couple of questions, the key to the period that we are in is the patience, because now we know what's involved in this process. We know that there are thousands on thousands on thousands of businesses just like ours looking for the support. So it is a process. We want to be patient. I feel like there are excellent programs for those of us that feel that this is a great way for us to start to carve our way out of this situation and reset. And at the same time, research before you pay people to assist you with these applications. You need to know your business. So also say that if you don't know your cost of goods, if you're unfamiliar or unclear about your operating expenses, if you go to do the Paycheck Protection Program and it's hard for you to figure out the average monthly payroll, well, this is a time for you to reset and go back as a business owner, what a lot of us miss out on because we're hands-on, we're in the throngs of it. How often do we get a chance to sit back and go into our businesses from an administrative perspective and get our affairs in order? This is the time to do it. We're borrowing money. They want us to prove we need it. And we should be able to show that our businesses are impacted by what's going on there. That's the gist.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you weren't confused before we start this process, you're twice as confused at the end of the process. Hopefully not. Nikia, that was amazing. There are a lot of questions at it. And again, we had our conversation earlier today, and I'm in the midst of doing that now for my business, right? And not understanding what the emergency fund was, right? Oh, the emergency fund and whatever, but then it says up to $10,000. Well, what we're trying to do, $10,000 will be okay, but if it has to go towards payroll, you can use that money towards payroll?
Oh, excellent question. Yes, you can, with an exception, if you apply for the Paycheck Protection and accept those funds as well. So hypothetically, Mark, let's say you decide to apply for both. And we all know that with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, we're in that 3 to 4 week window, right?
Right.
Paycheck Protection happens right away and they say, boom, Mark, here's the money. Well, you know, we can't double dip in this situation. So your Paycheck Protection, if you opt in for those funds and you really want to be in a better position to have those funds forgiven, then what you'll do is decide, okay, what am I going to use for payroll, the Paycheck Protection, or the EDL, right? So then we still have other operating costs and other expenses associated with the business, which is fine. But in order for the Paycheck Protection to be forgiven, we have to use a larger portion of that for payroll. If you opt not to do Paycheck Protection and you just go the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, then you're fine. Yeah.
If you're applying for both, if you're trying to, I guess, not double dip the system, but work the system a little more efficiently to yes, have payroll taken care of on one side and then not have to work. I'm gonna get to that question in a minute. But on the other side, you have that 10,000 you can use for, in my situation, merchandise, a rent, some utilities or van payment or something like that, right? That can be used for that. But that's once that 10 is gone, that's it.
Well, actually, remember the 10 is an advance on what you qualify for as a whole. So if SBA says, well, Mark, you qualify for 100 grand. So we'll make sure you get some emergency funds within 2 to 3 days before we start to roll out the schedule of the rest of your approved funds.
All right, and that is the long portion of it. payroll protection plan, the triple P squared, P cubed, is like, again, you're dealing with the bank. And that's a great distinction, because right now the question that I had to use, who in the world am I dealing with? Am I dealing with the SBA or am I dealing with a bank? Well, the answer is depending on what you're using, right?
Absolutely.
If I'm doing the emergency plan, I'm dealing with SBA straight. If I'm doing the P cubed, I'm dealing with my vendor, my bank or a bank.
Your bank. Yeah.
Right. And that's a great point you said about having and understanding your business and what you're doing. And I talk about having these relationships with your resources. If you can't walk into your bank and they not know who you are, you got a problem right about now. I mean, not like they won't do the business, because some banks out there want the money, but I feel a little bit better when my banker of X amount of decades or whatever I've been dealing with says, Mark, you need this. You're going to have this and get this and this. And they're going to look out for it, because, again, that's long-term business. Walking into bank B with no relationship, you may get jacked. Or not. I'm not going to say everybody's bad. There's some banks out there who are going to do great. But at this moment, to your point, if you're not familiar with your numbers, if you're not familiar with your vendors, you can't pick up the phone and call and like, hey, we all in this together. I'm going to send you a third of this bill. That's what we're going to have to do, right? Because we're trying to get through. So I like that aspect of it. And that's, again, another resource for those who go to the SBA and deal with people like Nikia and other folks who coach, counsel, and whatever to get this done. This is not the time to be afraid and be wrong and be scared. Let's be clear.
That's right.
I am not a paper dude. I have an accountant, I got assistants, whatever, but unfortunately, this falls to the director. So I have to now sit down and go through all this stuff. But you call, I need this, and this, and you put it together, and you walk to the bank and say, yes or no. This gonna get me through the door or not. And you fix it. Like I told you, Nikia, last week, that PPP form, I promise you, changed 3 times in 1 week.
Yes.
She came out it was a one form. I'm like, well, where's the rest of the documentation I'm gonna need to prove that I need this money? Because I know you need to prove. Yep. I fill it out, turn it back in. Oh, Mark, we need this. I get that. Oh, sorry, Mark, you can't get these 3 months. I need 12 months. Oh, you mean 2019, right? She said, no, 12 months from March back to March. Oh, that's different than 12 months. Well, if you read it, it says 12 months prior, not last year's.
Right.
So, but the biggest question not a big question, here's the one I need to ask now. They're asking for, if you're doing the PPE, I'm sure in the EDL, they're asking for a P&L. A 2019 P&L. Are you serious right now? My accountant was about to run me out the door. She was like, I'm not giving you the P&L at this moment. It's not done. You're right. It's only been 1 quarter.
Yeah.
Our P&L is not usually done till May.
Yeah.
So how is the SBA or the banks reconciling this? I got 18 in the bag, but I don't have 19.
You know, that is one of those situations where you have to work with what you have. You know, they've streamlined the application process for a reason. If you can remember with the EDL, initially it took hours and a lot of document uploading. So the streamline application gives you a minute to kind of pause and figure out, okay, what am I going to submit when I finally get that email that says, all right, now I'm going to need to see some financial statements. So you have a few options. Every business is specific to your business, which is why it's not cookie cutter. You'll receive an email specific based on your business needs, what the lender needs. You can only provide what you have. Financial statements can work too, depending on the business.
Right. I mean, there is a list. I mean, again, if you ever try to get a loan or a franchise or whatever, I produce documents I know I could find.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You need your quarterly tax filing report. What right. In the world? You ain't filing your quarterly taxes yet. You gotta have that. Yeah. You gotta file quarterly. You have to show the insurance that needs to be paid, that's been paid over last year for all your employees. Because remember, in the PPE where I am right now, you can't lay nobody off. If you get this loan, you cannot have laid anybody off. They're off. You better bring them back because you're getting money to cover them for 8 weeks. Now after 8 weeks, I have a strong feeling we're gonna be doing this again. But and now we got 8 weeks, which is what, 4 pay periods? 2 months. Depending on how it works out, about 2 months again from whenever you get the money forward. So again, back to planning. But there's just so many so many other different forms we had to present. It wasn't a whole lot. It was a low doc requirement, I guess. I've seen higher. But again, to put these things in a document, and she's like, give them the 2018 P&L. That's all they're going to get from me. I'm like, okay, but you're right. Now here comes the relationship with the bank, because if I got loans before, they know the trend of the business. They can say, okay, we've got history with you all. We can work with this 18. Give us 19 when it's available in May, June. Okay, because they ain't gonna be ready till May, June.
Exactly.
At this point. So what are some of the questions that you've dealt with so far that may be a little bit out of the norm for an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness. I will just say, I am honestly amazed at how many of us small business owners don't really know our numbers. The toughest part of this process for the past week has been just realizing that many of us are not really prepared to ask for the money we really need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that we don't do excellent work, that we don't have the best products or the best service, and from the surface and social media, we're really doing big things. But behind the scenes, when it's really time to number crunch and actually know how much revenue you're generating, how much it costs to generate that revenue, is crickets. And I'm not just talking about like little old me with less than 3 employees. I'm talking about employees who have multiple locations in other states who can't wrap their head around some of those basic numbers. So I would say one would be, how many are asking for help trying to figure out their cost of goods sold, or how should I really calculate operating expenses? So this is a scary time for those businesses who have not been able to at least have the support that you have in place. Or for those of us who are so far behind the scenes that someone else is handling it for us, but we're not connecting with them on a consistent basis so that we know what our money looks like.
Right.
The second question that had one couple in tears is they didn't know that it took this long. They really believed that in about a week, maybe 2 weeks at the most, they would have a direct deposit, and now we can at least breathe. And trust me, I understand, because there are a lot of small businesses who rely on that money for everything. So again, it just goes back to how powerful this segment is, because if they knew in advance that realistically there's a 3 to 4 window, doesn't that alleviate some of the anxiety? It might not take away the inability to take care of some bills, but it at least helps you to figure out your game plan. So that would be the 2.
Yeah, I can see that. Again, being that you have people who handle stuff, you're focused on the business. I guess ask, who's your team? Here's a good time to evaluate your team. Do you have an accountant? Are you doing it yourself? Maybe you let it go. You know, you're trying to run things, you handle it. You're a solo shop. Certain things need to be outsourced. Yes, there's a cost to it, but how priceless is to be able to pick up the phone and say, I need last year's payroll numbers document. Now, you may know the numbers. I do know the numbers, Nikia, but I don't have them on paper because that's what the accountant is for. So now I have to go to her and say, give me the numbers, and I go back through them and look at them and say, okay, cool, here is the number. Here is the top line number for the year 12, 2.5, boom, there's my number. And then I went in and looked at the numbers. I actually did this again on the second rendition of going through, talking about I knew my numbers. I was only focused on payroll. I was focused on payroll and paying my staff until she said, what about? I said, oh, you're right. That number's way too low, way too low. Had another friend telling me, Mark, have you looked at these items, and what about the reboot? What about coming back online? You haven't ordered any merchandise. How are you going to get this thing ramped back up? And by the way, it's going to take 30 to 60 probably to get the revenue back to cover one payroll. And see what I'm saying? So the number I was asking for, I'd have been stuck.
Yeah.
On the original. But again, the conversation with people just knowing that, wait, this is going to take a little bit more. And now that that's in place, to your point, that particular pressure is off. So now I can go back in and even be more strict on my budget and more tight on what we're trying to do and telling the staff, look, we don't need these items. These 25 products don't need to come back. Don't try to order them. We're going to run with this core. You know what I'm saying? Whatever we got to do to tighten the window and stretch this cash out. Because again, we don't know.
And, you know, I'll add to that, Mark, that you are not determining how much money you need. Like if you notice, with the economic injury disaster loan, there is no option to say, I need $200,000. They're
Right.
determining that for you. So if your numbers are skewed, just as you experienced, but you experienced it before that information was submitted, you could be, you know, putting yourself in a position where you won't even have enough money to get through the next few months.
That is real. That is absolutely real. So again, this conversation is not about, oh, it's about information. It's about, look, let's just get real with stuff. Let's go ahead and take care of it. Let's get at it. Let's get on the phone with people. Like I say, we can't go in, but do the time because your business is still look, there's a way to come out, and you know, if it's meant to be on the other end of this thing, it's gonna meant to be. I mean, back in you guys by, you know, August, July, August, but well, that didn't work. So it just beyond control. When you get to a point where things are out of your control, and you have no control, you got to try to control the controllables, right? Get back to what you can control, which is you, which is you, and trying to be level-headed and plan, like we talked about in other meetings last week, and plan as if things are going to be okay. Plan as if what's coming out next. Take this time. I heard a preacher the other day talking about coming into this, we should be better on the way out. We should be better after this than before we came in. That means learning, that means growth, that means change, that means new habits, that means do whatever, reinvigorating things, whatever, for everybody, not just for everybody. And for our conversation this evening, the small business owner entrepreneur, you may be good, but you need to be a whole lot better on the other side. And I say this to myself, right? I may be good, but I'm not good enough to say I'm good right now. I'm learning and grinding and grabbing stuff and grabbing people and come on air to talk about it because we can all learn together, right? This is a conversation that Mark need to have too, because there's more to this game than out here. Are there any other type of programs out there people aren't talking about we could be applying for?
Well, you know what? I always recommend dig into your industry specific programs that may be out there. You know, Mark, as a nonprofit, both of us are EDs and nonprofits. There are not necessarily the SBA. Now, keep in mind, SBA has multiple loan programs that are not associated with the disaster relief. So there are other options with less processing times. But what I've also noticed, and I encourage everybody to do, is now is the time to start to see what other opportunities are out there, even from a grant perspective for small businesses. It's possible in doing a search based on your industry that there are associations that are putting together opportunities to give support to various industries. This is not our be all end all. They're great programs to help get us afloat, but they're not the only ones. Mm-hmm. So, and that's important to say too, because they are, you know, we're all applying. I don't know anyone who's been approved just yet because of the timeline that we're in. So you want to open up opportunities for other financial resources, and they are out there. So don't just stop at this.
Okay. And Nikia, so once again, no one's chiming in with any questions at this point. I'm seeing anyway. To do this, where can tell everybody and where to go again, where they start this journey of trying to get some of this funding, where they need to go first.
Everything you need to know is at SBA.gov. I promise you, even if it drives you crazy reading all the information, everything you need to know is there, SBA.gov. I'll even throw it out there, Mark, if anyone has questions outside of the broadcast, if they want to reach out to me personally, by all means, they can. I can answer questions specific to the two programs, but not specific to your individual business. But I will open myself up because there are multiple tiers to this, and we talked about that earlier with the programs. There are multiple tiers, so feel free to reach out.
That's what's up. Nikia, I thank you for coming on last minute, but this is of the urgency, importance, and sticking with to try to get online. Ooh, there's some good information because somebody ain't happy that we can't get online to get this information out here. So yeah, boom, here it is. Anyway, we're calling me and my blue teeth. But anyway, so that being said, y'all, appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. Make sure you follow up on the timeline. Nikia, please drop the SBA information there and your contact email again. Yeah. Wait, got a question. The EIDL repayment is always 30 years versus 2 years with PPP. Is that right?
Oh, yes. They got it on the nose. Yep.
So it's always 30 years on that's the disaster. That's versus,
on the disaster. Yes, it is up to 30 years.
Okay, and versus the 2 years for the payroll
for the PPP.
protection.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Davis, on that great question. Anybody else got a question on here? Nope. Okay, well, cool. Well, thank you for, again, joining us and time. If you ever want to come back on something new development, I may reach back out to you and say, hey, we got questions, or I got questions, and we want to talk about it. But make sure we definitely follow up with you. And thank you for your work in grinding in an SBA, because, again, to see a face that we are familiar with or friendly with, to walk in, mm-hmm. not knowing, I think that's the biggest fear step is walking in and say you don't know. That's but right. I will say to everybody on this line, I built SBA in the cookie business early on, and it was a wealth of information, and this is what they do. So now is not the time to be afraid. Be afraid of walking into Walmart without gloves on, at least be afraid of that, but don't be afraid of calling the SBA to get your financial support line open so you can stay in business. Okay, all right, we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks again, Mark. Have a great one.
I'll let everybody let you out of here. Okay, move you back out of here. Mm-hmm. You shutting off? All right, boom, she's gone. Okay, so there we go. There you have it. Please come back and watch this video again, and you can see my blue background. I was playing with the green screen because I was a little flustered on having the beautiful backdrop, but I'm gonna get it together. Nonetheless, this is what we're about on Off the Bench, is to give information to you to help you stay motivated to get where you want to go, even in this time. So we'll begin. We'll probably have somebody on again in the middle of the week. I do know this. Byron Davis will be back with us on Friday night's edition of Home Off the Bench Live, where we're discussing more of speaking and elevating your platform. For those who, Byron got a lot of response afterwards, got a lot of emails of people who watched later saying, I want to know more about that. So if you're interested in speaking, if you're interested in using speech and speaking as a platform to grow to the next level and how to do that, how to scale, Byron's going to come on and give you some more nuts and bolts of that. Remember, he said he had a whole bunch of notes he didn't get to because he can talk all night. I don't know where he gets it from, but he can talk all night. We will continue to have that conversation on Friday. So be on the lookout for that. Anyway, that's all I got for you right now. And remember this, as always, you can reach your dreams with a step ladder, then they're probably too low. I'm out.